In 2017, the gun world lost its mind. A tiny company called Hudson Arms showed up to SHOT Show with a pistol that looked like a 1911 and a Glock had a consensual relationship and had an offspring. It had the trigger of a 1911, the striker of a modern duty pistol, and a bore axis so low it felt that you were pointing with your index finger. Everyone wanted one. But in only 2 years, Hudson Arms got clapped by bankruptcy. It was a brilliant idea with a really bad execution because the guns would fall apart in about 2,000 rounds. But then a giant stepped in. Daniel Defense bought the rights of the Hudson H9 and spent 4 years basically redoing the whole gun. And today we have this, the Daniel Defense H9. Did they really put lipstick on a pig or did they fix the whole thing? Stick around to find out. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dennis at the Range. Today we're going to talk about a gun that shocked the whole industry. For those who are new on the channel, I'm a French firearms enthusiast with a passion for practical shooting. I started this channel to share the stories behind the guns I love, track my own progress in practical shooting like over here, and learn as much as I can along the way. I have a lot of big plans and exciting firearms coming on the channel in the future, so make sure to follow along and subscribe. I also have an Instagram at Dennis at the Range, so make sure to go follow that. If you like this video, make sure to like and comment down below what are your thoughts on the Daniel Defense H9. Is it something truly revolutionary or it's just an overrated pistol? Now without further ado, let's get to it. To understand why this gun matters and why Daniel Defense decided to gamble on a failed pistol design, we have to go back to 2017. Just for reference, Daniel Defense is famous for making AR-15s and not pistols. So how did they get to this? Well, it was at the 2017 SHOT Show that Hudson Manufacturing unveiled their Hudson H9. It didn't look like anything else at the time, so it was really famous and people were lining around the booth to take a look at it. Well, I wasn't there, but you get the point. People wanted to see it. And the reason behind that is because the concept was brilliant. I mean, it kind of had the best of both worlds. You have a single stage trigger and the nice grip of a 1911, and then you also have the reliability and the ease of use of a striker fired gun. So the concept was really good and innovative for the time. It also had a very low bore axis, and that was something that caught the eyes of a lot of shooters. Before we keep going, I have to explain the concept of bore axis and why a lot of people consider it important. I'm interrupting this video to talk to you about CNP Tir. CNP Tir is a gun shop in Tours, which is about 3 hours away from Paris, and they're the gun shop that lent me most of the pieces that are in the channel. They are the first ones to believe fully in Dennis at the Range, so I really have to thank them a lot for that, and I'm really grateful. They just lent me the guns, I do whatever I want with them, and then I give them back. They have absolutely everything, and I was very surprised when I walked in and I saw all that there is here. They have all the latest things that come out from the industry, and they also have a bunch of old vintage rifles with a lot of history. They truly are a one-stop shop for anything related to firearms. I am right now in their vault and you can see there's just everything. So again, thank you very much to CNP. Now let's get to the video. The bore axis is simply the distance between the center line of the barrel right here and the highest point on your grip on the frame. So imagine there's a straight line coming out of here and another straight line coming out of here. Now if we take a look at a 1911, we see that the center of the barrel is much higher compared to the back of the grip. Guns that have a high bore axis, for example, are the SIG P226, and guns that have a lower bore axis are this or the Logo Alien, which everyone knows today. How does this impact shooters? Well, normally the recoil is gonna happen on the top line right here. And the lower your hand is, the more lever there is going to be. So the lower the barrel, the more it's gonna push straight into your hand instead of flipping up. So in an ideal world, you wanna have the bore axis right here, aligned with your finger, so the gun just moves like that and doesn't move like that. This makes your sights stay on target and it allows you to get follow-up shots faster and more efficiently. Now, in this specific gun, is it something that you actually notice or not? Well, I guess if you compare it to a SIG 226 that has a very high height over bore, you might, but if you're a good shooter, I don't think you will actually notice. That's debatable. So everyone liked the concept, but this is where the story turned into a tragedy. Hudson Manufacturing was a family-owned business and they weren't a really big manufacturing giant. This means that when the guns started actually reaching the consumer, the problems rose up. After about 2,000 rounds, the guns would completely destroy themselves. There would be problem with the strikers, there would be problem with extractors. The gun was completely falling apart. They also had a very innovative system with the recoil spring, which was a lot lower, and it being so small, it was completely destroying itself. So the guns themselves weren't performing properly and as promised, because 2,000 rounds is really not a lot. 2 years after the original launch of the Hudson H9, the company was gone, and they left behind them a bunch of angry and screwed over customers. And this is where Daniel Defense comes in. Now, as you might know, Daniel Defense is a manufacturer of high-end AR-15s. Since they wanted to enter the pistol market and give their customers a high-value option, they decided to buy the design, the intellectual property, and everything around the Hudson H9. It looked like a pretty easy deal. You buy the intellectual property from a company that cannot manufacture, and since you have a lot of good manufacturing capabilities, just mix those two together, fix some issues, and send it out. 6 months should be good. Well, they were mistaken, because after looking under the hood and looking at the actual blueprints, Daniel Defense engineers found that the gun was a complete disaster. So for the next 4 years, they completely rebuilt the gun. The Daniel Defense H9 has only one part compatible with its predecessor. They re-engineered the whole lockup. So on the original, the locking lugs were way out in front, and then Daniel Defense saw that that was too much of an issue, and they had to move those lugs back for a more traditional Browning style system. We're always going back to Browning. They also addressed the weight. They didn't want their customers carrying a big, heavy and uncomfortable pistol. So to solve that, Daniel Defense went for an aluminum slide to give their customers what they wanted. Then there was also the safety issues. And just like the P320, the Hudson H9 was not drop safe. When you dropped it in its pack, what used to happen is it would hit the beaver tail first and be out of battery, so the gun cannot fire. But when you actually slapped the part right here, literally just like a P320, the gun would have a negligent discharge. So the Daniel Defense engineers had to work their way around that to make this gun safe, because if you're going to conceal carry it and pointing at you know where if you're appendix, well, you don't want a round going off. The engineers also had to add a trigger shoe, which we'll go over later, but it's this little thing right here, and it hinges from the bottom up instead of what Glock does, which is from top to bottom. And then we come to one of the most important parts for the consumer, the price. Now, at the time, when Daniel Defense released this was about the price of 2 Glock 19s, so it was quite a considerable purchase. Today, they have lowered the price to just under $1,000, so it's a little more accessible, but it's still quite an important purchase. Let's take a closer look at the gun. So here we have the Daniel Defense H9. Let's unbox it and see what it comes with. So, opening up, manual, operator's manual. And yes, you can get a free optics plate with this gun. So when you're buying it, you have a coupon code, and then you go on Daniel Defense's website and you can have an optics mount. So this is what the gun comes with. This is a chamber flag, Daniel Defense. Then we have one mag. These are 15 round magazines. We'll go over them later. So 1, 2, 3 mags. And here we have the gun. As you can see, the Daniel Defense was supposed to be kind of like the best of both worlds. So this is a 1911, just a regular legacy armament 1911. And you can see the similarities of the grip in the way that there's removable panels here and then there's removable panels here. We'll go over that later. And then it's a striker fired, so it looks like a Glock, similar to a Glock. Let's start with the trigger, which to me is one of the most interesting parts of this gun. You can see that it has a pin right here, and the safety is going to pivot from the top, just to make sure YouTube, this is safe. And this is where we have a straight pull trigger, so it has that 1911 element, so it's supposed to be a good trigger. Let's see how it feels. So what I'm noticing is that there's 2 small walls, so 1, 2, on this safety thing right here. The trigger is supposed to be 6 pounds, so let's test that out. So like a small wall here, 1, 2, pulling, okay. And then let's check the reset. So yeah, it's good. Honestly, it's good. It's better than a Glock, I would say, because yeah, Glocks are the worst. But it's not as crisp as a 1911, and I wouldn't expect it because this is striker fired. But let's begin with the slide. So regarding sight systems, as I mentioned when I was unboxing it, this is a dot ready gun, so you can take this out and put any optic you want. Daniel Defense have actually a really good system for that. And stock, it has the hackathon style sights, where you have a fiber optic in the front and a blacked out sight in the back. I think if you run irons, that's how it should be, because it's the easiest way of acquiring the sights when you run irons. Now, I don't really run irons, but you can see the bottom of the slide right here. Now let's look at the barrel. Normally, Daniel Defense wanted to go for a polygonally rifled barrel. However, there were some issues where some rounds were keyholing. If you don't know what keyholing is instead of the bullet entering straight, it enters like that, like on top. So instead of just seeing a round hole, you see an arch. This is, yeah, that's not good. So in the end, they went with a regularly rifled barrel, so nothing special on there. This barrel is 4.2 inches long, which is right about 10 centimeters. Next, if we look at the recoil spring, which is also very interesting, we can see that it has this notch right here. This was made so that the recoil spring can go as far down as possible. On the Hudson, the recoil spring was much lower. It was actually right like around here. Then we can see that there are front and back slide serrations over here. They're not too big, so it doesn't grip that much. It feels kind of like a Gen 5 Glock, which it would make sense, but yeah, I wish they could have done more because like the press check and everything, it's really convenient when you have a good grip over here. Daniel Defense also had to work a lot on the extractor because of the original Hudson. They would completely break all the time. It was crazy. And as I said earlier, here we have the backplate that really looks like a Glock. I mean, if I bring the new Glock Gen 6 over here, it's very similar. Then we have the frame. So let's begin with the accessory rail. In the original Hudson, the accessory rail came to about all the way down here, which means that if you wanted to get a weapon mounted like, you had to go all the way down, which wasn't really convenient, and that was a major complaint with the original. So along with the recoil spring, they ended up moving everything up, so you still have some space to put those weapon mounted lights. Here we just have a normal Picatinny rail. Over here we see the slide release, so they ended up covering it right here, so there's a small protection. That makes that when you're holding the gun, you're not accidentally pulling it down. Some shooters have had issues with it. I haven't shot it, so I don't know. But that does seem, I think to me, a bit small. Comparing it to the Gen 6, which has a big border over here, this is a bit smaller, and yes, it's ambidextrous. Then we have a magazine release, which is very similar to what a 1911 would look like. So right here, this is the 1911, it's a small button. This one's a lot more tactile and responsive. You can see it doesn't move that much. The grips are also like a 1911. These are G10 grips. They're not too abrasive where they'll hurt your stomach when you're carrying them, but they still have quite a good grip. And yeah, like a 1911, you can take these out and put whatever grip fits in this one. Coming back up, we have the nice beaver tail, which allows you to get a good high purchase on the gun, aligned with that low bore axis to properly shoot. So I like the beaver tail, honestly. Some people get slide bite. I have relatively big hands, I don't know. And I mean, I haven't shot it, but I've never gotten slide bite from a regular Glock, so I think this will protect your hand properly. A really cool thing also is that Daniel Defense actually redesigned the mag. These mags are kind of like what the Glock 19 mags are, which are a 15 plus watt in the chamber. They are proprietary Daniel Defense magazines, and like many other companies that make proprietary magazines that can sometimes be super expensive, these ones are not. These Daniel Defense magazines are very similarly priced to Glock magazines, so that's something that's really cool, because sometimes pistol manufacturers will release a pistol with some proprietary magazines, and those magazines end up being 70, 80 bucks. So this is a lot cheaper and it's a lot cooler, very nice on Daniel Defense. Okay, so I put this gun back together. Overall, I think it's quite a nice firearm. It does feel very good on the hand. The grip is not too small. I'd compare it, I mean, it's supposed to be the same size as the Glock 19, so it's very nice. The slide is a bit heavy, but that's normal, that's every steel slide. This is an aluminum frame, so it should be very comfortable for everyday concealed carry. So yeah, this is the Daniel Defense H9. So, overall thoughts. Well, I think honestly it's quite a cool gun. It's a really cool concept. I like it. It looks very futuristic. It looks cool. It looks like the Hudson did, unlike anything else. And since Daniel Defense is making it, well, you know it's actually going to be good quality and that they're going to stand behind their product. They're a great company. Actually, I like them. Now, they're not paying me anything to say that. That's just me and from what I've seen on the market and seen on Daniel Defense. They're a great company. Again, a huge thank to CNP in Tours for letting me spend some time with this gun. It's actually very rare to find a gun shop in France that supports creators like me. Like, I really have barely any subscribers and I had even less when they decided to lend me these guns. They've had my back from the start. I really owe a lot to them, so the least I can do is tell you guys to go give them a visit. Like I mentioned in the beginning, there's a link below for their Instagram. Go see what they have. They have a great selection. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to give it a like and comment down below your thoughts on it. And until the next one, Dennis out.